Hey there, Phil. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you all right. What's going on, man?
Hello and welcome.
Yeah, thanks for being here. My name is Devin Dupuis. Um, and Phil, go ahead, introduce yourself,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, I am Phil Butterworth.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, surprising. Yeah, I know. We just gave everyone the link, told us who we are. Everyone already knows who we are.
Now they know.
Yeah.
Um, did you want to do just a quick warning, real quick? Because whatever
Oh,
you
yeah.
kind of opinions you might hear today.
Yes. Well, our opinions do not represent those of DSI, our co-workers, our friends, family, except our dogs. They definitely agree with us because they are very good boys. Right?
They they do. I have a
They very much are.
couple dogs myself.
Oh, very
So
nice.
let's roll into it. I think the Phil and I are just gonna have a conversation and yeah, kind of see where it goes. Whatever happens, happens, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's just start off with where are you living these days, Phil?
My wife and I just moved about 3 weeks ago to Victoria, BC, in Canada. We moved from Calgary, which we were there for 34 years and finally moved out. So,
Really? And
yeah, this is our
I'm not super familiar with Canada. Where's that located?
Calgary is basically Texas North. That is
Oh,
straight up. That's right above Montana in the mountains. It's a nice little area, nice prairie, very oil field heavy area, but
oh,
nestled in the
really?
mountains. So it's a nice place. But now we're on the water.
And
Now I
wow,
got ocean views and lake views. We can go hiking. This is like Canadian paradise here,
really,
except for the prices. Everything is so freaking expensive.
really.
Oh,
The
really?
weather's different then.
Yeah, this is like sunny days. There's no snow here. At
No
least not
snow,
yet.
no snow ever.
No. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. There's more rain.
We'll see. The day is
We're
young, right?
yeah, we're used to the minus 40 and like 4 or 5 feet of snow, like
Mine
coming in like a couple of weeks.
is that Fahrenheit or centigrade?
Oh God, what is that in freedom units? That's got to be like minus 100 Fahrenheit or something. I don't know how these things
Yeah,
work.
yeah, something like that. So if people already don't know, I am from the U.S. and Phil is Canadian. So
Eh?
yeah, a. So yeah, I am currently in Houston, Texas. So it is very hot here and humid and unpleasant. So most days you can find me either in a air conditioned shop or in my office, which also has air conditioning. So
Nice.
it's where I spend most of my time.
We used to have air conditioning. Now we do not. And it is 18 degrees Celsius here is sweltering for me. I do not do well in the heat.
Really, yeah. I'm the same. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm kind of like a polar bear. I do like it to be cool. I remember I moved here in December and I was unloading like a pressure washer. It was like 85 degrees in December, and I was just sweating, going, man, I don't know how I'm gonna survive. But do you have do you have any pets?
I do. We have two pets. We got Bernard here, our little dog. Wow. Bernard, say hello to everyone.
Oh, he's with you
Oh, he's with me. Yeah, he is a princess and he's got to be by my side all the time.
the whole time, right?
And we have one screaming cat who, if you pay attention, you might hear him in the background, 2 rooms over, screaming like a banshee.
So
He's a
not super friendly, you would say.
oh, he's the friendliest cat you'll ever meet, but he never learned how to meow, so he just screams all the time, 24/7. It's an experience. It's something. But Bernard's a good boy. He's a good little princess. What about yourself? You said you had a couple of dogs?
I have more dogs than I can handle. I have three like full grown German shepherds. One of them's 3 years old, and he's a mix. He's a retriever German shepherd. So he's kind of the oldest, and then I have two almost year old puppies that are brother and sister. So
Oh,
they do nothing but just fight with each other all the time.
oh, that's cute. You
So,
might see me. I'm like shifting around all the time. I got those rollerblade wheels for my chair that are so
oh,
popular now.
and you're
And
just
there's
sliding around, skating
there,
around.
yeah, there is like a divot in this floor of this rental. And if I move ever so slightly, I just kind of fall into it. I readjust myself all the time. It just roll away. It's interesting. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
like a ride, like we're on a constant roller coaster.
Yeah, no, certainly.
Yeah, it's
Um,
good for the abs trying to keep my balance on this
yeah, on the hardwood floor.
on the hardwood floor. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So here's the real question that I think everybody's tuned in to find out. You are a machinist.
Yeah, fake machinist now, as we've so
Pretend.
dubbed ourselves. Yeah,
We're
pretend
both pretend
machinists.
machinists.
Yeah. Not
Um,
fake. We're just pretend. Make believe.
tell me how that happened.
So, like so many other people who get into trades, I almost failed high school. I was a horrible student. Barely, like probably 49, 50, you know, barely passing anything. I think I got through high school out of just my teachers didn't want to deal with me anymore. Just we feel sorry for this kid. He's an idiot. Get him out of here. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was really into biker build off back then. That was like the peak. And you'd like every show on Discovery was about building a bike or something.
Just choppers.
Just choppers everywhere. And I remember watching one episode and seeing some guys like machine a full like billet wheel. And I thought, that looks cool. I want to do that. I want to build choppers and make wheels for a living. And I signed up for our local tech school. Didn't get in because my grades were so low. And then maybe a month later, probably a month before the class actually started, they had a student drop out and a position opened. So luckily, I got in. Otherwise, I'd probably be working at like Home Depot or something today.
So you got lucky.
I got lucky. I got something was smiling down upon me. I just kind of got lucky there.
And so
And
where'd you go from there?
I was 4 years of trade school. Surprisingly, here in Canada, machining is a lot different than in the US. It's like a 4 year degree. We get a little card and everything. It's fancy. Yeah, you get a nice certificate for the wall.
That sounds real fancy.
Good. It's super fancy. It means nothing. Nobody cares when you go into an interview, but makes you feel good. But I started at a shop making just kind of oil field parts. It was my first shop. I was turning ODs on pipe so that they would fit in the CNC lathe. So I'd manually turn just skim passes for an entire year. That's pretty much all I did. It was just prep stuff for the CNC. And I finally got super bored, and my boss wanted to see if I could jump on a machine and just run some parts. Well, other guys were doing things. I could just load stuff and go. And I started doing that, realized how much I hated this loading, being an operator kind of thing. And I almost left the trade. I almost left the trade to build video games because I saw a movie about some guy making video games, and that was like this new shiny thing. I'm like, okay, I want to do this now. But my mom told me no at that time. I should just stick with the schooling she paid for.
So she kept you on track.
She kept me on track. She actually gave me probably the best advice I've ever had. And she said, if you don't want to do it, do yourself a favor, put 100% of yourself into this. And if you still don't like it after a month or two of, making this your entire life, then it's not meant to be. So that's what I did. I started opening the Haas manuals, going through, reading everything, teaching myself how to program, started writing my own macros to kind of do thread milling on a bunch of different sized holes. So I didn't want to hand program every single time. So I learned how to write macros to do that. And then when I started diving into this whole world, then I was like, okay, this I like. This now I'm being kind of creative. I'm not just loading and waiting for the day to be over and, wishing for the buzzer to go so I can have lunch. It's like now I'm eager. Now I'm actually like getting creative, building something. And then that's kind of where that kind of spark happened. And then I started looking for like new jobs. Let's get out of the oil field, or at least out of this shop into something new. Let's try some 5-axis or anything. And so I slowly started like going from shop to shop, learning as much as I can, basically. nowhere really in Calgary were shops that were like willing to invest in you. You had to invest in yourself. So no one's going to be like send you out to go learn how to program or show you, how to use Cad Cam kind of softwares. Everything had to be done by yourself. I was lucky enough at one shop that one of the foreman had he got a 3-day Mastercam course and decided he didn't want to do it. He's already paid for it, so he kind of gave me the go ahead. And I went and I learned Mastercam for 3 days, just basic 2D kind of stuff. And that was another one of those aha moments. Like, okay, now I'm not just sitting in front of a machine hand coding away with drawings. Now I'm actually on a computer and learning how to take solid models and 2D drawings from on the computer and turn them into programs. And that was like, okay, this is the next step. I have to learn more of this. And unfortunately, they immediately hired an actual programmer after that. And I didn't get to see another CAM software for like 4 years.
Really?
So that was, it was a lot of manual coding, a lot of manual machines in the early stages of my career. And I finally kind of got fed up with all of that and decided I really want to become a programmer. I want to see what this guy is like. How can I be better than that guy that's programming? Because I'm running his programs and I don't like them. How can I do them better? So I kind of left that shop, found another one where they basically taught me Gibbs Cam. Again, it was just 2D. You had to draw everything. Everything was done by sketches. We didn't have solid model packages. So I learned Gibbs Cam and basically started taking over their milling department. Ran the entire department myself, programmed everything, sent them off to the guys. And it just kind of went from there. That was super fun. I actually enjoyed Gibbs Cam. I might have been one of those few people, but I really liked that drag and drop kind of system they had. I don't think I would like it now, but back then it was kind of cool.
Now your workflow has certainly changed, I hear.
Yeah, now it's definitely changed. Pretty much after that shop, I left there because I'm not very good with bad management. If something's managed poorly, I just lose my attention. And it's like, I have to go. I need better management. I need better leaders. Yeah. So I've left quite a few shops because of management. But I left that place. I went to another shop. That shop ended up closing pretty quickly after that. Jumped to another shop. That shop closed. Went to another shop. That one closed.
Not because of you, though.
Well, hopefully not. At least that's what I tell myself.
Allegedly.
Yeah. But I think there was 3 or 4 shops in a row that all closed. It was like right when the kind of oil downturn was at its kind of peak a few years ago. And I ended up working for a place that made CNC routers that were just supposed to cut foam. And that was pretty much what they did. And I had an entry-level job there. Like the machinist trade basically died in Calgary for a while. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find a machining job, so I ended up doing assembly here. And losing my mind because we would get parts from other machine shops. And I would look at these things and it's like, I swear people just filed these to size. They were so bad. And I was like losing my mind seeing this kind of stuff. And luckily, at that time, I saw a message on Instagram from this guy called Mad Jap Customs, Dale. And he was looking for a machinist that could make a part for him. Just a little bracket for a motorcycle. It was nothing fancy. It was just to hold shock. And I was like, oh, I'm a machinist. Like, I got access to a machine. I can do this. So I went, visited him, took some measurements, just went back, jumped on a machine, cut this part that kind of same day, added some pockets to it, something just so it wasn't so boring, looked kind of cool. And I brought it back to him and he took one look at it and he said, we should buy a machine and go into business together. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I've seen this. I've heard this 1,000 times before. And yeah, he was actually serious. And probably a week or two later, we found a machine on Kijiji, which is like our version of Craigslist.
Okay.
Then it's been like a $6,000 machine. The spindle wouldn't change tools. The machine itself was gross. It was an old Protus. It looks like it'd be run pretty hard. So we bought the machine, looked over it, trying to figure out why wouldn't tool change. Spent days tearing the entire machine apart. We actually took all the panels off and took them to a car wash and pressure washed them all. It was disgusting. We got this assembled. A couple of days, couldn't figure out why the tool change wasn't working. I'm not much of a machine mechanic or repair guy kind of back then, so I had no idea how these machines even worked, even though I've been in the trade for 10 years at that point. But we stumbled upon a little fluid container that was totally empty. And we're like, that looks like a hydraulic cylinder. And it's completely empty. So we filled it with transmission fluid because that's all we had. And suddenly it's tool changing. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is great.
Then you're in business.
Yeah. And then we blew a fuse. And the next week or 2 weeks, we couldn't freaking find out how to turn this machine on or where this fuse blew. We thought we just killed everything. And then we found under this tiny little cover that there's this tiny little fuse that blew. So placed that, got the machine running, and started making parts with a, pretty much hand coding again on this FANUC controller, which is where I started my my hatred for FANUC. If anyone's not familiar, I'm not a FANUC control guy. And we just slowly kind of blossomed from there.
And you eventually ran the shop there then?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just Dale and I. So Dale's claim to fame was he's an artist, a beautiful fabricator. And his claim to fame was building choppers all by hand. So we started machining parts for them. The shop kind of started growing and growing. And we decided, okay, if we're going to make parts, we need to be one step above everyone else in the industry. And how are we going to do that? We got to get a 5-axis machine and take full advantage of 5-axis. So we threw all our money together and we bought that first Turco, that VMX 42.
That's got
that thing has been a beast ever
B-axis
since.
head or something in it?
Mm-hmm. No, that one's just a basic trunnion machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mid-size. It's probably smaller than most UMCs in the work envelope, but it's a beast of a machine. We bought that machine, and while it was getting set up, we decided we had to make a big splash. How do we show this market like who we are really quickly? Because we have payments coming out. So we designed a full billet swing arm in Fusion. It was the first Fusion thing I had ever done. Built this swing arm. We wanted to take it to a show in 3 days. And basically, we stayed up all night, every day till 4 a.m. of programming, learning 5-axis, learning how to program this thing. They didn't have a post for that machine yet. So I was trying to learn JavaScript at the same time so I could fix the post to get the code going. So it was 3 days of almost 24 hours every day getting this thing going. But we ended up getting a full prototype out in 3 days, probably 20 pieces in that.
Really?
It was wild. Yeah. And then, things just kind of slowly grew from there. Got a lathe right after that, moved shops, bought the Matsura that everyone's probably familiar with, and just kind of started growing the business from there. But it's been a wild ride. And then we decided, my wife she finished her master's degree and couldn't find work in Calgary. So she applied at a place out here in Victoria, got the job working for the government. And we decided, okay, this is like the next stage of our life. We got to kind of move out. And she's helped me through my entire career as we were growing MJK. And now it's kind of my turn to help her grow her career. So that's when we decided to come out here.
Nice. So you left the machine shop.
Left the machine shop, yeah.
And you got a new job.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of stressed out for a while because this is a very expensive place to live. My wife's wage is good, but it's not huge. So we're kind of stressed out of what am I going to do when we come out here? And so I reached out to Al, actually, from Autodesk. I said, if you know of anything remote that I can do when we're kind of going out here, like let me know or push people my way. I think maybe 5 minutes after asking, DSI called me.
Really?
I'll just put the word out there, and DSI heard, and they called me immediately. And I think the next day or next 2 days, it was like paperwork signed and we're ready to go. And now I get to start my journey as a pretend machinist.
As a pretend machinist. So you're
As a
doing like application stuff, a little bit of posts, stuff like that
yeah,
now?
yeah. So now I'm doing applications for Fusion, training and demos, mostly posts, which is that is surprisingly something I've learned to love.
Really?
Like I love manufacturing. I love the programming, the creative side of creating parts, but learning something new, like learning how to write posts and learning how to do little JavaScript programs to make my life easier has definitely just taken over. Like that is now, everything to me. I absolutely love learning this coding stuff.
Yeah. I would have to attest you're fairly good at it.
Well, I'm just fairly good at faking it.
I mean, we're getting there, right?
Getting there, yeah. How about yourself? I've seen some pictures of young Devin, looking quite thin and beardless in some old shops.
Yeah, I will try to keep it short and sweet because my journey is quite long. I I kind of grew up going through school. My dad owned a construction company. He set like mobile modular homes, and I always thought like didn't really need to pay attention a whole lot in school. And I thought I would just always run my dad's business. And one of the things that I remember happening kind of in like 2008. The housing market started to crash. I was in I was doing construction for my dad, and some other random guys building houses and doing things like that. And a lot of that stuff just dried up and the work became less frequent. So you had to kind of work for more people, and things like that. And I really stumbled upon machining by accident. It was actually I had done it in high school. We had like a shop class, so we had like a foundry, welding room. We had mills, lathes, stuff like that. And I took in machining in high school, and it was something I really did enjoy. I kind of grew up, and I hear this story a lot with just like mountain bikes and things like that, where there's a lot of people that kind of get into that. And that was my big thing. Like I wanted to make parts for my bike. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to engrave stuff and make kind of cool looking stuff. So wasn't anything that I kind of fell into though, because like I said, coming out of high school, I worked at a bicycle shop, and then eventually I just started working for my dad. And then eventually there was no work at all. And I took a job at a machine shop. My little neighbor kid that came over, I took a job at a machine shop, and I started working over there, on like proto tracks. So like manual, real manual, because they were super old proto tracks, a lot of like manual events, things like that. And these were proto tracks that were, they didn't even have graphical user interfaces. It was kind of like an alarm clock interface where you just programmed, what you were doing. And then obviously, you're manually doing everything.
Yeah. You're like one step away from ticker tape.
Yeah. And I had done that in high school a bunch. So, I kind of knew the process, but it really intrigued me that they had these kind of retrofit proto tracks, and they were able to, reposition for like bolt circles, or you could put a profile in there and it would cut it, one time or 100 times or whatever. And it was really interesting. And the machine shop actually had some other machines. They had two other verticals, and they had a pretty, at the time, we're talking like 2007, 2008, a pretty advanced, it was a Morisiki NL with a bar feeder on it. So it could do a lot of stuff. It had, live tooling, two spindles, bar feeder, it had a conveyor for parts, stuff like that. And what really got my interest was I saw one time on the, this is kind of what just, drove me to want to be a machinist or want to, continue to make parts. I saw we were doing some parts, and they were engraving some serial numbers on some stuff. And I saw the machine kind of writing that, and they were doing it with like a chamfer mill at the time. And I just thought that was like so intriguing that it could do that. And so I kind of, looked at that a little bit, and then I eventually, did something else at the shop for quite a while. And, he wanted to know if I wanted to continue kind of doing this other thing. It was had to do with suspension. So we were building suspension and things like that. And I told him, that I wanted to basically be a machinist. I thought that would be a better, a better hobby and more transferable in the future, because I don't know how many other places I could go to and, build suspension. Um, so I started doing that, and basically my formal CNC training was, I sat down with a gentleman, and we kind of looked at a real basic part, kind of just drill, tap, do a slot, cut on it, contour, profile the outside. We kind of hand wrote this program, looking at this print, and then he gave me another part. He gave me another print, and he said, "Well, I want you to go home over the weekend, figure out what tools you're going to use, and write a program for this. Here's the code book for the machine." It was a Fadal VMC 3016. So he just gave me like this big binder and just said, "Here, take the book home, kind of read it. Here's the format of the program." So I went home, I kind of plotted everything out, figured out what I wanted to do, M0 in the middle of the program, G54, G55, flip the part over. And I came in on Monday with the program. We put it in. The Fadals are really tricky with the code. If you put something that's like formatted incorrectly, it won't accept the full program. So like, if there was an error, you'd be able to see it. Well, we put it in. He went and looked at the program. There was an M30 at the bottom. He's like, "Looks like the whole thing's in there. Let's try to cut it." And we basically cut one of the parts, set the offsets, flipped it over. And that was my formal training. And he was just kind of like, "I see, there's a computer over there that has Master Cam on it." He didn't really know, a whole lot about it. He's like, "I'm sure you can figure it out," or whatever. But, my journey, I guess, similar to you, I started out just manually programming everything at the machines. And then, so I ran from the day I started working and kind of running a CNC machine. I had two Fadal 3016s, and I just made job shop parts. So I was constantly flipping between orders of 20 parts, 200 parts, or whatever, and my cycle times were very, very short. There were a couple minutes or whatever, because it was just basic operations, facing something off, doing a contour, drilling a hole, real simple parts. And eventually, he kind of came out in the shop and he's like, "Hey, why are you on Mastercam kind of programming this job?" He's like, "We've done this job a bunch of times before." And he's like, "There's a file cabinet over there, has setup sheets with like 3.5-inch floppies and like tool lists and everything written out." And he was just like, "You've been programming all the jobs just new?" And I told him, I'm like, "Yeah, because it's just easier for me to do it that way, because I get to pick the contours and the tools and the profile and how I want to do it." So, he couldn't really say anything, because I was running the machines, I was making parts, I wasn't using the old programs, I was kind of doing everything myself, and yeah, and it was fine. So I did that for quite a while, and then kind of had some irreconcilable differences, we'll say. And I left that shop. I went back to, building bikes for a short time, and there was another machine shop in town that I had saw, and I had one over there, and, applied for a job, and they said, "Hey, can you come in, tomorrow or whatever?" So I did. I worked there, and I thought it was kind of strange. The owner was like, "Are you going to come back tomorrow?" Because they had brand new Prototracks, and they had one CNC, but it was like really old, and somebody else used it from time to time, so I didn't see it turn on a whole lot. And then I worked there for a while, just making manual parts, just making 5-6 parts. We made parts for the nuclear decommissioning industry, so we made like segmentation machines to cut like reactors apart, and big weldments and things like that. So I didn't do a whole lot of machining at all times. I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. We had to do like structural, I forget what I think it's called, spray arc welding, where the power just way turned up on it. We were doing stuff like that to build things, and it was really cool for the owner, because whenever you make something that's for nuclear decommissioning, let's say they want you to make a prototype, and then it goes on site, and then they use it, and they're like, "Oh, well, I wish it had a 1/4 inch taken off of it here or there." We can't have the part back because it has radiation, so we have to make them a new one with the altered version. So we were constantly sometimes making 3 or 4 different versions, because it'd be like, "Okay, well, this fits, but now this doesn't work," or whatever. So it was pretty good. And one day a Haas showed up, and it wasn't my machine, and it sat for like probably a month. And the guy who was supposed to run it, had done the training on it, but just still started making stuff in the Bridgeport, because there was parts that we had to get out. And, I kind of kept telling the boss, like chomping at the bit, I'm like, "I don't know exactly how to run that specific machine, but I'm sure I can figure it out." And he was making these parts one time, and it was like 2 weeks of him programming this very, very simple job. And I had just wrote a program on my iPad at lunch, and I emailed it to the boss, and I said, "Hey, give this to, the guy programming the machine." I said, "It'll help him out." And he just kind of told me, he's like, you let him make his own bed there." And then, the guy was sick one day and he came to me, he's like, you think you can run that machine? And I told him, I'm like, I don't know exactly how to run it, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. I know where the power switch is. So he had like an 1.5 inch thick plate that was like maybe 20 inches long or something. He wanted 3/4 taken off of it. So I was like, yeah, I'll put it in there. I made just a little looping subprogram to just cut it at like 10,000 RPM and 200 inches a minute and just cut little passes and just kind of loop. And he came out in like maybe 20 minutes when I was running the machine, and he's like, this is your machine from now on. He's like, I bought this thing. I don't know why. I don't know. Nobody could run it. You know what I mean? It doesn't make me any money. You know what I mean? And so he was just like, yeah, you can do that. So I manually programmed a lot of the jobs, and sometimes we wouldn't run like big quantities or whatever, but you have to manually plot out, programs and get everything in the machine. So the programming was taking a long time. And I was, I was wanting to use like Master Cam or whatever because I had used that in the past. So I got, a laptop with a version of that on it, and I started programming that stuff, but it drove this guy insane because he's like, he thought working was somebody hanging off a quill on a Bridgeport, with oil everywhere and an apron and whatnot. And I wasn't that guy. I was in nice clothes. I shut the doors. I made 200 parts a day, and he would see me standing by the machine programming other jobs or whatever, and he just thought I was, playing tiddlywinks on the computer. And I was like, that's not the case. I make this part, and whatever. And he's like, go work on the Bridgeport. And I just kind of had the stance of like, if you want to make more money and build a better business, you need to buy another machine, and so he did. We went out and found another, VF2 and stuck it right next to the other one. And then we had the same problem. I was running both machines because I had done that since I started. And I would still be 4 or 5 jobs programmed ahead. And, he'd be like, go make something on the Bridgeport, go do this, or can you, get this tap out of this thing or whatever. And I said, go get more machines. So then he went and got a VF4 and, was kind of running all the machines, helping program and stuff like that. But I always wanted to run a 5-axis machine. And I had been to IMTS. I had been to a bunch of machine tool shows and whatnot, and seen like the UMC 750. And for me, it was familiar with what I was running. And I was like, man, if I could get somebody, dumb enough to buy me one of those things, it's going to be awesome, And, eventually one day I found a shop that had one, and they were hiring. So I kind of went over there and, talked to them, and they basically were like, hey, we're looking to, do this. This guy might retire in a couple of years, so we want to hire somebody to replace him. And, I kind of looked at what they were doing, and they were doing very basic things. It was like aircraft preventative maintenance on basically on propellers. So we were doing a lot of preventative maintenance stuff on like the propeller hubs and the blades themselves, a lot of repair work, like just machining out corrosion and stuff like that. So, I started working there eventually, and eventually the Haas guy called me one day and said, hey, we had a customer, they bought a UMC 750, and you know how to make parts, you obviously run one, you're going to go over there and kind of talk to these guys, and I did, and I started kind of working there after the fact, or after my normal day job. So I'd work like 6 to 2:30, and then I drive like maybe 45 minutes to this other shop and work over there, make some parts, set up a job, and they'd run the parts the next day, and I'd come in and just kind of like a part-time thing. And eventually they wanted me to work there full time. We came to an agreement, and yeah, I just started working there full time, kind of running the shop. And it was a very new shop. I had never ran a shop before, or, had people, work for me or whatever. I was never really in that same kind of position. So, it was new to learn, how to kind of help manage, other people and manage kind of what you're doing. And we'll just say there was more than a few struggles along the way. And, but, we were successful in what we did. I think we had all the pieces to be successful with those things. I was, just highly focused on machining, kind of just like you. I like a challenge. I love, learning new things, learning new stuff. And, making parts that I had never made before, challenges that I thought were easy were very hard. Things that I thought were very hard, were easy. But, kind of getting through that. And yeah, I worked there for a decent amount of time. We moved the shop several times, just expanding because of growth, getting more machines, more employees, things like that. getting higher end machines. I do remember the DMG guy coming in there, kind of the first time, and kind of looking at our hosses and saying some stuff, and the owner wasn't super happy with the DMG guy, and I was kind of trying to make peace between everybody, but eventually we bought a DMG, a DMF 26011, which is like a kind of a weird machine. It's got like a big table on it. It's a traveling column machine, so it's not very common. The head is kind of attached to like this column, and it's got a B-axis head on it, and the C-axis in the table, and an A-axis on the side. So I was a little intimidated just by like what the program would be or what it would need. And, I had called around to some resellers kind of going like, hey, I need a post for this machine. And, I kind of got the answer at the time of good luck, let us know what kind of code it needs. And I'm like, well, I don't even have the machine. I don't know what code it needs, So I started really investing a lot of time in learning Siemens, the C numeric control and how those programs work and how the cycles work and how things are programmed. I was really confused at like the regular output in the Autodesk posts. There was like an A3, B3, and C3. So it was like basically tool axis vector, which was new for me because whenever I programmed the Haas, it told the B and the C to go wherever it needed to go. So seeing this kind of weird, it looked to me like a 3 rotary output didn't make sense. But I kind of kept telling the service guys took a long time to install the machine. I think they had to install the machine twice at that first location, just because of some issues that it had. But as soon as it could tool change, I was trying to cut parts, in millimeters. So all the machines were in millimeters, and my mind doesn't work. Do you use millimeters, Phil?
We surprisingly use inch here in like the west coast of Canada. I understand what a millimeter is, and I will always make fun of the US for using inches, but we use them too.
Gotcha. Well, my mind, doesn't work like that. I see 100 millimeters and I'm thinking like, I have no idea what this means. And but eventually, started making some parts, dialing some posts. I figured out, a nice way of how I wanted the post to work. And while we had got that first machine, we had actually got a second one with a pallet changer on it. So that was a whole nother, thing to manage. How do I manage, getting the pallets in there? How do I manage this other machine that has different kinematics and whatnot than the first one? So I made posts for the, our first machine, our second machine, then, we quickly got 2 more DMGs that were, again, all different kinematics. So different challenges, different types of machines, different capabilities. And, it was like I said, it was good. We did a lot of work, and got to do kind of whatever I wanted to do afterwards. So we had a pretty good relationship with the owners. They were in my wedding and whatnot, and eventually the grind of being a machinist is tough, right? I mean, I'm sure
especially
you never stop working.
When you're running.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you're running a machine shop, there's always stuff to do. There's never enough time. And, we're working a lot, things like that. I had got an opportunity to work at Autodesk, and I kind of looked at where would I be in 5 years from now doing what I'm doing today, or where would I be 5 years from now working for a company like Autodesk. And I took the opportunity, so I kind of left the machining industry, and I went to work at Autodesk for the sales team in Denver, Colorado. I moved my family there. I used to joke with my daughter. She's like, "Daddy, take me to the mountains," and that was kind of how I tricked her into wanting to go there. And I worked for Autodesk for quite a while on the pre-sales like application side. But Autodesk is a little bit different. And when I was there, because I really liked Fusion, right? We ran all of our machines with Fusion, which was something, I was told a lot of times, that you can't do that, or you can't run that machine with, that kind of software. And I was very hard-headed and stubborn that I could, right? And, I kind of grew with Fusion, right? I used Fusion before there was any 5-axis toolpaths in there. And then I used Fusion when there was 5-axis toolpaths in there. And, to be honest, at the time, and you can probably attest to this too, there was 5-axis toolpaths in there, but they weren't that great, right?
Yeah,
some things, they would give you an answer, right? But it might not be smooth. It might not be fast. It might not be exactly what you want. And certainly I hate having to buff a part for an hour or 2 hours after it comes off the machine. So, that's, kind of can be a struggle, in and of itself too. So, we had looked at other software, Siemens NX and Hypermill and PowerMill at the time. Cause, I was really excited about PowerMill when Autodesk acquired Delcam and, looking at that. So, had to get other software, kind of grew with Fusion 360. And then, once I moved to, Denver and started being on the pre-sale side, I liked the ability of exposing new customers to Fusion 360 and, having them go, wow, I can't believe something like this exists. I've been, using other tools for a really long time. And, this seems like it's great. It just seems like it's too good to be true. You show them everything it can do. And then you're like, yeah, it's, at the time, $500. And they're like, that's insane, So, really enjoyed doing that. But one of the things I noticed at Autodesk was, Autodesk has a specific business model, right? They want to sell software and they want to make tools to really make anything, right? Whether that's, something you'd make on the shop floor, whether that's a movie, whether that's a building or a skyscraper, things like that. So Autodesk has that in mind, and they have a really big network of resellers that kind of help take the customer that last mile. I always equate like Autodesk to kind of being like Snap-on tools, right? They make tools, but like they don't fix automobiles, So working, with a reseller and going from Autodesk to a reseller, I could be closer to the customer and I could help them a little bit more with that end-to-end solution. Not only, selling them the software, but also helping them implement it and helping them do training and going on site, which is something that I couldn't do at Autodesk. We would make so many great relationships with customers on the pre-sale side, but then it would come to like, hey, I have this question, or, can I have you come out here for training? And, we would have to just direct them, to a reseller or where they could find a reseller and whatnot to do that. So it kind of felt to me a little disconnected, right? And I didn't get to share in that experience of, having the customer continue to grow with you. You know what I mean? Our customers now, that we deal with, call them up on day one, introduce them to Fusion, things like that. Some of them are already using Fusion and they have struggles or problems, or they want to see, certain types of thing. And, that's what I like about it, is because not only do I have the manufacturing experience to help them with that, I also know the software really well, right? So those pieces kind of go hand in hand. There's a lot of people that know the picks and clicks in the software, but when it comes to the actual application side, or how do I get this probing cycle to run on my Haas, or on my machine, or how is this post going to work? That's where we can kind of really help out with. So
yeah,
I'm sure
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say before I kind of joined DSI, I would get so many Instagram kind of messages with people that needed kind of Fusion help, or like, how did you make that tool path? How did you make that part look like that? Or I'm struggling with this. And I grew to really love getting those messages and then answering and be like, I'm did a lot in my career. I've gotten to a good point, and now I'm actually like giving back and helping other people kind of be successful. And I loved that kind of part of it. So when I joined kind of DSI to become doing kind of applications engineering alongside with you, it's like now I get to take everything I've learned and I get to help other people full time, and I absolutely love it. The idea of taking your knowledge and helping others grow to like succeed it's a really good feeling. It's fun to do.
It's almost like it's almost like you're not working, right?
Almost like you're not working, yeah,
because you get to do something.
See other people work.
Yeah, you get to do something you really enjoy, and that is what I like about it too. So, yeah. So that was a pretty long-winded first question, but
good intro.
Yeah. So we'll try to go through I got some more questions to just kind of talk about briefly, so we can kind of run through these. Anything you're good at machining or happen to enjoy doing in the machining process?
So my favorite part of machining is actually the artistic side. I don't really like making fixtures. I don't want to deal with massive aerospace parts like you. I don't want to look like a hero all the time. I like creating little pieces of artwork. Like I like taking the tool path, getting the angles proper, using parallels, which is my favorite tool path, by the way.
Really?
And, getting the lines to kind of match up and just make a piece of art. I'm not a huge fan of tight tolerance work or, building rocket ship components or anything. I just want to make things that visually look cool. I think that's like the artistic side of me kind of coming out, because my wife and I build have a little group of friends and we build metal sculptures for Burning Man and festival events.
Oh,
So having that kind of artsy side and then going into a machine shop and continuing to make art is my favorite part. Yeah, I'm not I don't want to make parts down to a tenth. I want to make beautiful parts.
nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, oh, what am I good at? I don't know. There's many things I'm not good at.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always liked, I always enjoyed making parts. I think we're kind of in a similar vein, right? I like making parts that look cool, right?
Yeah.
I think when the part looks cool and the tolerances are kind of whatever. I mean, tight tolerance is fine when the tolerances are good, but
Yeah.
sometimes you struggle with a lot of things, process things like that. My dad used to think that I worked at a machine shop and I put metal in like a microwave and I just pushed a button and it was done and it made the part. And it's hard explaining to people that don't understand that. It's like you're not just making a part; you're actually developing a process to make a part. And I mean, I don't know about for you, but I've developed several processes that in the end did not work to make the part, and we had to start over or do something else to get the part to be that that right fit or the right process or things like that. So I do like making, designing, fixturing. I think that's I think like I said, the puzzle of that, right? It's like you're solving a problem. How do I get this thing to be efficient and be efficient to load them and unload them, or to put them in, or to be accurate and whatnot. Sometimes is a struggle, but you also have to have that kind of work to do that. So when you're doing prototyping, things like that, like fixturing is still a part of it, right? But it's different, right? You might window tab something out or whatever, but if you're making 10,000 of those, that's not the way to make that component. And I like both sides of that struggle, right? Being able to make the one-off and have it be good, or make, a bunch of parts and have it be, efficient process. And certainly, learning through, what you're doing in machining, it was always kind of a game for me whenever I would program something. You always think in your head, oh, this is fast, it's good, it's secure, whatever. But while you're running it, you go to run that job again. I'm always thinking, like, how could I improve that? Could I cut that a little bit harder? Is it going to wear that tool out a little bit prematurely? Like, there's a balance of all those things that you're trying to think of. So you don't win it. You certainly don't win them all, but you can. I do enjoy the kind of struggle of that, and going through those things. So making parts that look nice. And
one of my dad's few quotes is he always says, life is a joke and work is just a game, so you should have fun with everything. And he was always said, if you're doing something at work, every time you do it, try and be a little bit faster or try to improve the process, just because you're always trying to beat yourself. And that was one of those things that always stuck with me. And just like you're saying, you're always trying to improve upon something you've just done. Every time you kind of get a new part, or you've seen that part before and you get it again, you're like, hey, I want to make this a little bit faster. And I want to be more hands off. It's kind of the nice way to go. How can I be as lazy as possible when I'm making these parts? That's what I like.
Yes.
All the good machinists are definitely lazy machinists.
You mean efficient.
Efficient, yes.
Lazy is a bad
term.
word, but efficient, I think, is the better term, right? To the end solution with the least amount of clicks. I think we're all interested in that.
I used to work with a guy at my very first shop. He had this huge beer belly, and he was very happy to show it off. So it's not like we're not making fun of him. He was quite happy with it. And he was the one that was always saying, I'm good machinist or lazy machinist, but we're not using the word lazy. And he says, you always say, look at my gut. I've built this out so that I have a nice table to deburr parts. And he would sit there with his gut out and his little file and just file parts on his stomach. And it was hilarious.
Nice. So I know my answer for this question, but other than, or I guess you can talk about it, but what industries, did you work in, or have you made parts for?
What industry? Pretty much my entire career was oil and gas kind of work. That's just the nature of the town that we were in. And there's a lot of dirty repair work, building pipes, threading connections, working in alongside machine shops and welding shops in the same building. So it's a lot of dirty work, really. One of the last shops I worked at before moving to MJK was trying to go outside that, they were doing a bunch of parts for like deep sea internet cable. They were making a bunch of little connectors for that. And that was a really cool kind of problem to solve. Trying to make these really tight tolerance pieces, but as fast as possible. And we're doing thousands of them. I didn't actually do much work on that, but I got to help. But yeah, for the most part, my career is not that expensive. I've done a little bit of aerospace work, a little bit of automotive kind of stuff, but mostly it was oil field until I joined MJK, and that's where we started making the art,
just
jewelry parts. Where the tolerance on Harley parts is garbage. You just tape measure everything pretty much. So you try and get very creative. Use a lot of like PDC tools, try and get absolute polished, perfect surfaces off the machine and get really creative and just build this beautiful stuff. That's kind of like that's where I enjoyed kind of going. But yeah, and early and pretty much most of my career was just dirty repair work. So many threads, so many connections. Ugh.
A lot of grinding.
So much grinding. Yeah, and not like nice grinding. It's like you got your welding tools out.
Hey, do your best, grind the rest, right?
Oh yeah. One oil field shop I worked at literally had one cement wall between the machine shop and the welding shop. In the welding shop, they would weld the connections on the pipes. And we just, thread the ends of the pipes, make the connections, they'd thread them on, then weld them together. And they'd always have big stacks of pipe on their side. And it was always perfect. You'd be doing a new part, you'd be, heading the machine, you're on the lathe, you're just about to start the thread, which is, finishes maybe 50 thou away from the chuck jaw. So you're kind of sweating. Man, threading that close is terrifying. It should work, but you're there. And as soon as you press the green button to start the first pass, the shop, like the welding shop, would just drop a rack of pipe and make this, like the building would shake and you'd jump back, like have a little heart attack. It was every single time. I swear they were watching.
I don't even want to talk about all the heart attacks I've had. People dropping stuff and setting some down on the fork truck or something in the other room, or by your machine, and just thinking like, my machine just catastrophically exploded, and running over there and then just hear machining by it, and you're like, oh, it wasn't that. I don't know what it was, but
I've actually had that machine catastrophically fail and almost kill me.
Really?
That was a terrifying morning.
Maybe
that was first thing in the morning.
Just start of the day.
Literally just got there, turned the lights on, have coffee in my hand. I go up to the machine. It's a LB 3000 or LB 4000. It was a big lathe.
Okuma.
Yeah, Okuma. So it had like a 12-inch, maybe even 14-inch chuck or something.
Oh, God.
Yeah, awful. Just go up to it, got coffee in my hand, hit the warm-up program. This thing goes maybe, 800 RPM. It's not a lot, but for a big chuck it is. Turn the spindle on. I turn around and take one step towards the back of the machine, and the spindle bearings seized. The whole spindle housing rotated. Something's got to go somewhere when everything stops. Grabs all the brackets that are in the machine holding the spindle housing and blows them out the side of the machine across the shop floor to the other side. Like tears holes in the sheet metal. And it's all right in front of me, maybe inches from me. There's oil everywhere. All the 1/4-inch thick brackets are twisted up and they're gone. And I changed my pants that day. That was awful.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, I still have nightmares about that one.
Especially to start the day, right?
To start the day, yeah. I'm not barely even awake, and this machine tries to kill me.
Were you ever that? So I've worked with machinists like this in the past, where it might be midway through the day, maybe it's a little bit after lunch, something happens, and they just give the machine the finger and they just walk out for the rest of the day. I wanted to be that guy a couple times, but I think I got talked out of it.
Oh yeah, I've never left the shop, but I've definitely kicked the sheet metal before. Like back in my younger days when I was trying to play video games at home as a teenager, my computer would freeze and I would just sit there and kick the computer, feel frustrated.
Oh yeah, I know the feeling of frustration for sure. The next question, or I guess my answer to that is
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of everything. I think the majority of what I did, or what I would say I'm decent at, was just job shop work, which was a little bit of everything. A little bit of medical, a little bit of food grade stuff, a lot of just random parts and brackets and things like that. I've made some parts that go on airplanes and whatnot. So yeah.
Nice. It's
Then
funny. I see like in the chat, it looks like a lot of people, including yourself, got started making bike parts.
oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
see that a lot on Instagram too. So many people got into this industry, like just started out making BMX parts.
I think it's a common theme, right? Um, so the next one, Instagram username. You want to tell me a little bit about
Oh,
that?
the Dr. Phil experience.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That was an interesting kind of combination of events. Uh, when I first started my Instagram channel and decided to go to, focus on machining and not just stupid Instagram stuff, Dale really wanted to. Dale's the owner of MJK. He really wanted to turn this into like a, if you're going to start something, you need to have a presence. Um, and he always thought of me as this like mad scientist when it comes to machine and controls and making these parts. So he dubbed me the doctor. And I started to change my name kind of to Dr. Phil. And it that was going well, but earlier on, like in my younger days, maybe my mid-20s, I was very, very much an introvert. I didn't really like talking to people, or I'd go out, but very quiet kind of thing. And one day I decided this is really stupid. Like, you're out, you're doing all these amazing, cool things. Like I was at a lot of kind of burner events and, going to trade shows and things and being at all these cool places, but was too scared to talk to anyone. And so one day I just decided I have to create this alter ego to kind of push myself to kind of get out there. And that's where I used to call myself the Phil Butterworth experience. And I'd throw that on Facebook. And my friends at the time just like they loved it. So they'd always talk about like, what is the Phil Butterworth experience? And they'd ask me all the time. And I have no idea what it is. But I'd
Maybe
go to
one day they
events.
can experience it.
Yeah, maybe one day. But we go to like so events and things like that where they were trying to like name a festival or try to name this event, and I'd always put my name in there. I'm like, you should call this the Phil Butterworth experience, trying to get my name on everything. So that was kind of where the experience part came from. It was a little personal way for me to kind of get out of that very introverted funk. And so I just I joined them together, the Dr. Phil experience, now on Instagram. And now I can also kind of share with people what I'm doing and kind of be an extrovert about it. Feel really good about, okay, I am happy about showing off everything I do.
Yeah, you should be proud,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of took those two things and mixed them together and made it into your name. I do remember always seeing this silly photo of what looked like a Frenchman holding a mustache. I was like,
yeah.
this is a weird dude. And now look at us.
Yeah, it's weird.
So,
I like to have fun in the off hours.
Oh yeah. I definitely hear that. We do like to have a little bit of fun. My Instagram is 1186 MFG, and 1186, I guess just the story behind that. I was just born November of 1986.
Whoa.
So I know, mind blown, right?
What a riveting story.
So yeah, I mean, there's nothing super interesting about it. I'm just kind of always a November kid. I like the holidays, like Thanksgiving here in the U.S., kind of later in the year. So yeah, November of 1986. So everybody knows how old I am now too. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's good. That's nice. That's quite the story.
Oh yeah, I mean, not as in depth as yours, but
no, you should. Next time someone asks, you should probably come up with a fake story.
I better not the greatest story.
Yeah, you should probably come up with something better for that one.
Sounds good, man.
That's how much money was in your bank account when you started or something.
Maybe negative, but
yeah.
So the next question, Fusion 360, other software. What's your experience? I know we touched on this like a little bit before. We were talking about kind of Gibbs Cam and Master Cam, things like that. But I guess just give me maybe a quick, 2 minutes of like your overall thoughts on kind of what you used and, what worked well for you and why you use Fusion. I would take it. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I've basically used Master Cam, Gibbs Cam, Esprit, and I shudder at saying CamWorks, but I use CamWorks. You've used Mastercam for the most part before Fusion. I actually got the reason we were able to do a lot of stuff early on at MJK was because a shop I worked at was going out of business and they couldn't afford to pay me anymore. So they had 2 dongles of Mastercam, and I just said, I'll just take this as a check. And they were like, yeah, sure, fine. So I had a little dongle of Mastercam. That's before we got that Herco, the first 5-axis. When we decided to buy that, I reached out to Mastercam. I think it was a reseller, In-House Solutions or something. I can't remember the actual one here. But reached out to them to see how we can get a post for this machine. And because we weren't on maintenance, they had to get me back on maintenance, then get the post. And they quoted, I think, $10,000 or something, or just under $10,000 for this. And I was like, that's crazy. We can't afford this. I am eating Mr. Noodle every day and having pepper soup because we're so broke starting this. That's when I was on Instagram and I saw the Fusion kind of cam challenge. And this was everywhere on Instagram. It's like anytime you'd look up a machinist thing, it was Fusion this, Fusion that. We're doing this cam challenge, Autodesk University. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot.
My buddy Curtis Chan at the time, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Curtis.
I downloaded it, and that was maybe a few weeks later. That's when they were going to put in the 3+2 5-axis stuff, just in time for our machine to come. And they had that year of, you could have Fusion free for a year if you're starting up. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, planets have aligned here. I can't afford anything. And now this is free cam software that does 5-axis for my 5-axis machine that's coming. And that's kind of when I started using Fusion, jumped in on that. And then, man, sounds like we might be hawking software here, but the entire community that was built around this software has been like a life-changing. Right? The reason I'm here, the reason I got to join DSI, or we've been to these trade shows. Some of the best friends I have now have all come from this community we built with Fusion. So it's just like, it's more than the software to me personally. It became this like life-changing event, which sounds super cheesy, but I mean, it's true. I'm sure that's the same way for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not gonna. I don't remember an exact date, but I was working at the nuclear decommissioning machine shop, and I was on my lunch eating some Chinese food as usual. And I was watching a YouTube video, and I think it was John Saunders or something. I saw somebody, and they were what interested me is they were drawing parts in there, because I started out with a really old version of Mastercam, not X9 but V9, so like from 2001. Really, really old software. So in kind of 2009, 2010ish, that's what I was still continuing to use. So I was drawing a lot of parts, or like kind of making like lofted surfaces and things like that. And I was certainly hand sketching every part that I was making inside of Mastercam. And I saw this thing, them using Fusion and kind of rotating the model around. And I was like, oh man, that looks intense. And I kind of saw how he picked a face and made a sketch on the face. And I was like, I need to try to, use that. So I had not a dollar to my name, but I took every dollar that I had that day, because I tried to download it on the laptop that I had, and I was running a program from 2001, right? So I had a 32-bit kind of like this. It was a few $100 transforming laptop. Remember when the Windows laptops, you could like take them apart? I think Amish still uses a laptop like that, but mine was very, very old and not very didn't have high hardware specs. So I actually downloaded Fusion. I tried to install it, and it said you couldn't install it because it was a 32-bit machine. So I was like, I don't even know what that meant. So I'm like kind of Google searching, like, what is this thing? And I saw like I could go buy a, a laptop for like $700-800 at Best Buy that was 64-bit and would run the program. So I skipped paying rent and I went straight to Best Buy and I spent all the money that I had on a laptop so that I could run Fusion. And I started kind of playing with it. And, I had hand programmed and I had used Mastercam for a really long time, before Fusion. And, you get set in your ways, right? You're like, hey, I know how to do this. This is the, the picks and clicks you do to get to the end here. But now learning a new software, which I could tell was better, right? I feel like I'm always wanting to be on the edge of like what is best, right? If I've always thought in my head, like if Google comes out with some software that lets me put in my tools and it just does it for me, I'm going to go work for them, right? Oh, yeah. But until then, that day doesn't exist and that software doesn't exist. But until then, I feel like Fusion, now that I know it, is very extremely like easy to use, to learn, things like that. But I kind of spent the first week of my Fusion journey kind of playing with the software, drawing some things in there. It was much different than what I was used to with like 2D sketches and transforming the work plane that I was drawing on and things like that. But I started to get it, and I made a couple mistakes, programming some parts or whatever, but I tried to use it like my first week. And then the second week I said, hey, I'm just going to use Fusion, right? And only as an absolute, like, you have to get this job done as a crutch are you allowed to go back and do something in Mastercam. Mm-hmm. And really, once I kind of figured out a fluid workflow that worked for me in Fusion, it was so much faster than what I was doing. My Mastercam didn't have any like adaptive clearing or anything like that. So it was just insane that I could take this complex part with all these little shelves and little pockets on it, and I could just say, hey, do a 3D adaptive clearing on this, avoid the tool, and it just did the whole thing, So I spent my second week kind of doing that and really haven't looked back. I used Mastercam a little bit at, the aerospace shop. They had, newer versions of it and whatnot, and played around with a couple things here and there. But I was always really stubborn with like Fusion might not be as good, but for most things it is faster and more efficient, right? It doesn't carry the same price tag. Maybe it doesn't have the same exact capability if you're trying to do, turbo impellers or blisks or things like that. But maybe one day it will, right? And I grew with it, kind of learning that, oh, hey, it's going to get more capabilities and it's going to get better and, all of those things. So use Fusion for a long time, use Mastercam, explored certainly other softwares. We used Siemens NX for a little bit there, and I kind of had to learn that backwards. It's a very complicated system, I guess, just with how something simple you would think, like setting up a job or, linking a part or, making direct editing changes. Cause it's a software that's been around for a long time. And it does do some things that are very, very valuable, but, Autodesk announced a little while ago that they were partnering with ModuleWorks, and a lot of that technology or the things that I really, really liked inside of Siemens are actually coming into Fusion here in the future, I hear. I guess I can't confirm or deny any of that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, for sure. So a lot of cool stuff coming to Fusion. So, it's hard to be able to go out and spend that kind of money on software that you're still not going to use all the time. I think our friend Rob says it too. NX does everything that he wants to do, that I want to do, but there's a reason why we don't use it. Or we don't use it all the time, just because, I always felt like Fusion was more efficient and could do, the same thing with a less amount of effort. Like you said, going back to our laziness or our efficiency or whatever, mm-hmm. But, getting from A to B with less time. So, I think that's kind of my experience on that.
Yeah. That's just a sheer speed of it especially for prototyping is just unmatched. Like you just can't do the same kind of work in any other software that fast. It's definitely really nice. I still remember when I first started trying to get my head around the difference between joints and mates, though. Going from SolidWorks, that took a while. Once that clicked, though, I was like, oh, okay, I like this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Once you understand the quirks, right? Fusion. The other thing I really like about Fusion is like super flexible, right? there's never really like one way to get to where you want to be, right? You know, even with manufacturing, do you want to like insert a linked model? Do you want to make a manufacturing model? Do you want to have your model linked and have a, you know, a cam template? You know, different ways to set things up. You know, I think are really good, and it's nice that you can use it one way, I can use it a totally different way, and we can make it work for kind of both of us. So that's what
There is only one way to make something, and that's the Neil Stein method, formerly the Rob Lockwood method. The only way to manufacture our parts.
And maybe we can touch on that in another episode. But
yeah,
what is another question I wanted you to ask? Just because we work for a reseller, so now maybe our answers are a little bit biased. But tell me a little bit about your experience with using Fusion and working with resellers, if you did or if you didn't. Any experiences you may have had, and then also working with Autodesk, right? You know, I think, like you said, and this is one thing that I did want to touch on. You know, the community is different, right? When I was kind of learning NX and trying to figure out those things, I was amazed at how little information there was out there for what I was trying to do. And, you know, kind of the you know, the deep places you got to reach to try to find information on something or how to make something work, and, you know, how complex things are. And I feel like I figured it out, right? You know, when you have a software that costs, you know, let's say $40,000, right? Just guessing. And you're a shop, and maybe Phil, you're the other shop down the street or in the same town. Do you think that I want to let people know let people in on that industry secret, right? Why should somebody else just be able to make an investment and then have the same capability that I have, right? So I feel like a lot of that stuff is kind of kept secret or kept behind closed doors, or, you know, a lot of the stuff too isn't glamorous, right? You know, if I showed you how to make a setup inside of Siemens and then I showed you how to do one inside of Fusion, you would go, well, obviously one of these things is better at this than the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole thing. And I've had that same thing too. A lot of people don't know this, but if you reach out to me on Instagram with a question or a comment, I'm sure there's tons of people that'll request, even from, you know, years ago, asking for a post or how did you get this to work or what settings would you use on this. I answer just about, I mean, I pretty much answer everybody that's not a bot. You know what I mean? That's the only inbox chats that I don't really get back to, but I'm of that same thing. I love being able to help people, right? And like you said, this being my day job, it doesn't even feel like work, right? I get to come in and help people solve problems. The parts I make are pretend, right? You can't get any non-conformances if you don't make any parts, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a little secret there, but you know, it's great being able to do that and being able to share my experience with other people and help lift them up in manufacturing, and, you know, introduce them to Fusion if they're not familiar with it. And if they're using Fusion, you know, kind of help them advance with it.
Yeah.
So go ahead with anything to add?
Yeah. But my first experience with a reseller was back in Mastercam days. It was trying to make this oil field drill bit. So a lot of 3+2 positional stuff. I had just kind of started this place. Their programmer just went on vacation. I kind of put up my hand saying, yeah, I took a Mastercam course 3 years ago for 3 days, and it was 2D stuff. I could probably do this. And so they gave me this part that had to get done in 3 days. So that's this weird thing with the number 3. I don't know why. But it was just 3+2 part. I've never programmed 3+2 other than like hand programming stuff. And so I sat there for 1 full day sweating, staring at this thing, thinking I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm so far over my head. So I called the Mastercam reseller. We didn't have maintenance at that point, but they still came by, and maybe they're hoping to get a customer or like get us back on maintenance. But the sales guy and the apps guy came to our shop. They couldn't show me how to do everything, but their apps guy said, this is how I would start. You know, open one of these old files that kind of looks like that part and see what they did and see if you can figure out, you know, how to copy that. He's like, I'm not allowed to do any of this stuff for you because, you know, you're not a customer, but that's where I would start. And so I ended up, I kind of followed that advice, and, you know, right then and there, I learned how to do 3+2 kind of Mastercam work and got this part done. But I always remembered that, and I try and take that over, you know, to kind of us on the DSI side is, you know, someone might email in that's not a customer, but, you know, they have they have an issue and they need to get this part done. They're probably sweating and stressed out, just like I was. I'm like, yeah, you're not a customer. I can't hold your hand here, but like I'll help you out. I want to make sure that you're taken care of. Uh, but going back then, if we did have maintenance and they could have held my hand, that would have been amazing. I wouldn't have been so stressed out the entire time. But yes, coming as we're, like you were saying, it's the idea of like helping people is just so nice. It feels so good, especially when you get the emails after someone struggled with a part for a couple of days on their own, and you just, you can help solve it. And then they send you an email the next day saying, thank you so much. Like, this is great. We got the part done, and I can't thank you enough. And you're like, yeah, I mean, pretty good. I know.
All in a day's work, right?
All in a day's work. Yeah. Take my cape off and I'm done for the day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what about your experience with Autodesk? You worked with Autodesk internal a little bit?
Yeah. So before kind of doing this side, back at MJK, when Autodesk was first doing the 2.5D generative design, we actually, oh my God, there's a gigantic spider behind my monitor. Ah!
You need a second?
Oh God, that was huge. Jeez. Yeah, we shake that
welcome
up,
to
man.
Canada, huh?
Yeah. I love spiders. I think they're cool, but man, they still freak me out. And I'm going to back off my desk a little. Never know if those things can jump. Oh God, it's freaking huge. Oh. Sorry, it's massive. I'm not used to big spiders. It's like daddy long leg kind of things. That thing could.
Oh, it's just a little guy. Can't even bite you.
I'm pretty sure that could just haul me away.
No.
Okay. That was wild.
You're probably good. We'll keep an eye on that though.
Yeah. Jeez. But yeah, we kind of worked with Autodesk to help develop their 2.5D generative design. So we gave them some of our parts. They used that to kind of develop their algorithm. I mean, you've probably seen them. They're on my Instagram. They've been at trade shows everywhere. It's pretty cool to see your parts at IMTS and Autodesk University and all those places. But working, I mean, we've worked with Autodesk like really closely a bunch of times. They came, did a shop tour. They filmed that. It's on YouTube somewhere. It's a fantastic company. I'll give them that. Like, it's so nice to kind of work with them. They're really into like the way that we want to help customers. They also want to help us help customers. It's just great to see a company that's just not 100% about profits. It's about, enabling people and kind of spreading manufacturing to people that wouldn't have it normally. But yeah, it's been great dealing with them. And I get to bug them all the time on things I don't like. So that's always nice too.
We get to bug them now. We get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, we'll say. Yeah. I think my experience too, just going back to like the resellers, I had actually worked for a reseller a little bit, and I won't name any names, but I had done a bunch of training, HSM Works, Fusion 360, things like that, Inventor HSM, kind of got a peek behind the curtain. I think the one thing that surprised me a lot, which I know this is different than at DSI and even at Autodesk, there's a lot of sales, people who are involved in the sales process who don't really know the product like super technical. You know what I mean? I always thought it was insane that these guys could sell training and sell support and sell, all this stuff, but they don't know anything really about the product. They know that it does this and it goes from A to B and that's about it, right? They couldn't tell you, hey, could it make this part on a Hosk? They'd have to show it to an apps guy. So I had a little bit of that experience and kind of always thought like, well, why not just go straight to the source? Why not just go to Autodesk, for these things? And, I found out that a lot of people ask Autodesk questions and, some people, get them answered and whatnot, but Autodesk has a sea of people asking them questions. Right. So, being able to, I guess, work with a reseller or work for a reseller now, my experience, like I said, with working at a reseller in the past before I worked for Autodesk and, while I was kind of running a machine shop and working in machine shops, I kind of got a little peek behind the curtain. And then when we had got our first DMG machine I needed to post, I had called up, kind of the same reseller and was like, hey, I need a post for this. And they were basically, like I said, they were like, hey, good luck, give us some sample code, if you can get it, and maybe we can figure it out. And that was pretty much the conversation. So I was kind of like, well, I'm stuck on my own figuring this out. So I started trying to post, inside of Fusion and do those things, and eventually just had to figure it out on my own. Got to a point where it was beyond workable, and I think we had Autodesk come in and do a video on our shop too, and some of the post guys came. I think Occam, like Bob Schultz and whatnot, CJ was there, kind of interviewed everybody, made a little video and whatnot, but they helped with some of the posts, and we kind of figured some other kink things out. So we had we had a little bit of help from Autodesk, but I know that's not a common experience for people. So like I said, with Autodesk, we had a great experience. We obviously get to work with them now. When we have, when we need help or have questions, we get to go kind of straight to the source, where those things came from. So it's nice to have that, and to be able to work with somebody who has that ability for you. Just because the public getting in touch with Autodesk might not be as easy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to get into those inner channels sometimes, but when you're there, it's great. But yeah, it's at least luckily everyone's got people like us they can reach out to.
Oh yeah. And I think we probably touched on it a little bit, but how you ended up at DSI, basically you ran a machine shop, your wife was, looking for a career change, and there wasn't a whole lot of work there, and you had to leave the machine shop you were at. So it was go to a new place and start a machine shop, or go to a new place and maybe look for a little bit different career. Did I get that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, luckily I had that nice little conversation with Al, and then I think Cad Cam was like,
I reached out to you like right away.
Oh, it was within 5 minutes, I think, of messaging Al. Suddenly this Devin guy was calling me.
We were on it. You knew who I was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember you from the I think we met the last IMTS that was in Chicago.
2018, I think.
2018 or something like that. Yeah. I remember, who is this guy trying to buy the biggest DMG machine ever? That was like the talk of the town that time. It was this Devin guy who's spending like $10 million on a machine, or whatever exaggerated price that was.
Yeah,
I remember.
They certainly were not cheap, but like I said, I just ran the shop there, so I wasn't the one with my neck out paying those prices.
Yeah, good.
And then me, I mean, I ended up at DSI kind of the same thing. I saw there was a need to want to connect the customer a little bit more and take them that second mile. It's hard when you deal with a customer at Autodesk, and you sell them the software and you create this great relationship with them, but they might have questions 3, 4, 5 months down the line, or want training and support. And at Autodesk, like I said, they do have certain groups that do that, mainly for like larger companies. But it's hard to not be able to go help this 20 guy machine shop or whatever that needs training and support, and you have to send them to somewhere else and hope they get taken care of. So I saw there was a need and an opportunity to do that. So, kind of move to DSI and try to help fulfill that role now.
Yeah. I'm really excited that I know they're like a legacy kind of product company doing a lot of power mill, power inspect kind of products, but investing a lot into Fusion to kind of help support the whole community that got us to where we are today. It's really nice to see another company that sees the value of this and is actively pursuing it, because it's good for everyone that we can continue building a community of like new manufacturers, people like new CNC operators, new designers. We can kind of build that out, because man, this trade was dying for a little while there, especially in back in Alberta. I'm pretty sure it was dying kind of everywhere. There's such a labor shortage on skilled kind of manufacturing workers. It's nice to have everything become accessible again. Like, you don't have to get into a new machine shop and learn a $40,000 piece of software. You can kind of download it, try it on your own, at home, play with something, maybe get yourself a tiny little CNC router or something, $400 machine on Amazon, and now you can make parts. And we're kind of helping develop this entirely new generation of people that can do product design and manufacturing all on their own. They don't need to have, massive shops or
There are multiple
university
tools that
degrees.
cost a lot of money and kind of hard to go from A to B because you need this tool to design it, this tool to, draft it, this tool to make a drawing, this tool to, get the CAD model, this tool to cam it. So, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff in that process there. And that's what I always saw about Fusion. Fusion was trying to, Autodesk specifically with Fusion, was trying to disrupt the industry, right? I mean, there's a whole reason why Fusion has a super low barrier to entry and offers such a great price and value. Now, a lot of people take that for granted because they go, well, how can this be true? How can this thing that is, 545, US be comparable to what I pay in Mastercam and SolidWorks and things like that? And, for manufacturing, I think, obviously my scope is very narrow because I'm not coming from, a Logitech engineer or something like that. I'm somebody who makes parts, designs, processes, things like that. Fusion is excellent and excels at that. And I don't think there's another tool out there that is as easy to use, is as, cost, prohibitive, you know what I mean? Is, it just makes a lot of sense. So, let's change up the topic real quick. Interests and hobbies.
So now that we're kind of in Victoria, it's a little more outdoorsy kind of area. My hobbies have started to change. I am really into paddleboarding now. We got a paddleboard, my wife and I. Well, we're so close to a really calm part of the ocean, so we can just paddleboard around that. We're going on more hikes, more bike rides. So I'm really loving the outdoors kind of again. But the thing I love the absolutely most is my favorite hobby. My wife loves it and hates it at the same time because I spend so much money on half-finished projects. I love creating problems and then finding the solution for them. Stupid things. There's a 3D printer behind here that I kind of designed parts for, and I made this thing. Spent way too much money. Could have bought a really nice one. Instead, I created my own problem and then just got really excited to learn how to fix it or solve it. I have boxes full of projects that it got to that point where I solved the problem and I'm like, okay, I don't want to finish this anymore. I'm on to the new thing. So it's a fantastic hobby. I love the problem solving, but it's probably not a good one to have. I could probably get a better hobby that's less expensive than creating machines and not finishing them.
That'll give you less gray hairs, allegedly.
Oh yeah. What about yourself? What do you like? I've seen lots of drone videos. You're pretty quick on the sticks there.
I like yeah, I mean, like I said, I like things that are challenging. I got some drones that were kind of like ready to fly and very hard to set up and things like that. FPV is a pretty crazy hobby just because, there's a lot of information out there, but there's so many like different things and you kind of got to be, a nerd because you have to be able to solder wires and put things together and download firmwares and, change things in like Betaflight or whatever kind of flight software you use. And, I've been, the first drone I got was the Phantom 1 when it came out. So I'm thinking probably around 10, 11 years ago. And those drones, you just like stuck a GoPro to it if you had it and flew it and hoped you got whatever, picture there was. And they've advanced so much beyond, what those first iterations of those drones were, to now. But the FPV hobby, kind of recently or whatever, is advancing a little bit. DJI is doing a lot of stuff with that, but yeah, I'm into FPV. I'm into, electronics and soldering things, stuff like that. I like, F1. I'm really big into F1. I obviously love Red Bull. If you can't tell, I drink the tropical, the yellow version. That's my number one.
Oh, nice.
So I like Red Bull. And then I train jujitsu a little bit. So I do that, most days.
A little bit.
Most every day. Most days when I can. So, yeah, I mean, those are kind of some of my interests and hobbies. And then, I always liked BMX and motocross. I was always pretty good at BMX. I loved motocross, but I wasn't as good at it. But, it's certainly a fun thing to do. And hopefully we'll get some land out here in Texas and maybe have a track or something like that at the house and bring the kids into it.
That'd be nice.
But we'll see. I mean, only the future can tell that tale, right?
Yeah.
I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit. Now going back, right? 2020 vision, obviously, you know, is great. But if you could go back to MJK or to, you know, any of the shops, you know, because obviously what perspective, you know, different perspectives matter. Would you work with a reseller like DSI, knowing, you know, kind of what DSI is about and the dynamic? You know, DSI, just to give people a little bit of background, DSI is structured a little bit different than, you know, kind of most companies. We have a lot of engineers, you know, more than half the staff is certainly an engineer. And then we only have a few salespeople that, you know, cover the US and Canada and, you know, some other parts and whatnot. But being able to have the experience, or I mean, I can tell you right now, if there was a place where I could have just hired another me, you know, at really any of the machine shops, I think it would have been a no-brainer to have that, you know, capacity, or have somebody help you with posts or train your guys. You know, I always talk about, you know, when you're a machinist and you're trying to onboard somebody new, you certainly had to do this. I think when you were leaving your machine shop, it's tough when you're the main guy, right? When you're the head guy, or, you know, one of the best guys, for you to stop what you're doing and hold someone else's hand through a process, right?
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's always a tough thing, because now you have kind of this, I think Adam Carolla says this best, but, you know, he calls it like a dime holding up a dollar, right? You know, I always enjoyed hiring and working with people that I could count on. You know, hey, go do this thing, and I could count on it being done. Because if I have to tell someone to go do something, and then I also have to babysit them and go through the process with them, I might as well have just done it myself, took less time, you know what I mean, and just gotten through it. So it would have been nice to be able to go back in time and work with a reseller, you know, from my perspective a little bit, to be able to do some training or, you know, post support. Certainly that would have helped to take that off my plate, so I could have focused more on making parts, not how to get this machine to work. But yeah, I mean, how about yourself?
Oh yeah. If I could, like, the amount of projects I have gotten stuck on over my career that took way too long because I was struggling just to learn how to even think about doing this, that would have been solved by, you know, a 10-15 minute phone call with an expert. Would have been like amazing. You know, every shop I've been in would have grown so much faster and had so much less headache if we could just call someone up and have an issue kind of solved. Or if we had really good real resellers, you know, back then, that could actually convince some of the shops I worked in to get CAM software to begin with, would have been really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that whole thing of just being trained up really quickly, having questions answered, like just sending off an email and having an answer the same day or the next day or something, or having your problems solved without you struggling so much, that would have been hugely beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think I tend to agree with you on that one. So, next question, and it's a hot take.
Oh,
favorite toolpath in Fusion and why?
Oh, I've already mentioned it. I think I mention it all the time. Parallel is
really?
it's simple, but it's my absolute favorite toolpath. It does exactly what it needs to do. It looks beautiful. You know, heavy step overs with Parallel is just, you know, it looks like some architect did, you know, built this part. It just looks perfect.
Just quick.
It might not be the most exciting, but it is
quick and dirty.
It is the best. It's just quick and dirty. Yeah. Looks beautiful. Makes any part you put on it look a lot nicer. Just like this.
You're talking about something like this. Yeah.
Just something like that. Just
that's parallel.
Done with one toolpath. Yeah.
With perpendicular passes.
Exactly.
And just with a wide step
20 thou on the floor. I think I did like an 80 thou step over there, and just perpendicular passes making some diamonds. Absolutely. It just looks, it's such a simple toolpath, and adds so much depth. I love it. And everyone does scallop. You know, if you look at every bike and car part, everything's just done with a heavy step over scallop. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so way too simple.
Yeah, I always wanted
Parallel's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Parallel's nice. I think it's quick and dirty. I think for me, man, I'm having a hard time picking just one. You know what I mean? I definitely like Steep and Shallow, which I think there's a lot of people that would say the same. I really like Blend, right? I like the Morph style toolpath. I think that's my favorite. Like from NX, there's a toolpath called like Guide Curves, multi-axis guide curves, and Blend is kind of similar to that. It certainly doesn't have all the capabilities, but being able to take two curves and kind of fix whatever UV vectors were on there, kind of make it kind of morph the way that you want it. I really do like that. It obviously has its downfalls, but I would say probably Blend, and my second favorite just for quick and dirty stuff, because there are so many different things you could do with it. I would say maybe 2D Contour. I think 2D Contour can be extremely useful for a lot of things. So we'll just keep it.
CJ would agree.
Yeah, we'll just keep it. Yeah, CJ definitely agrees with that. So least favorite toolpath. Let's hear it.
Oh, least favorite one. Oh man. I almost have to open a Fusion to remember. There is I'm gonna get shot for this. I don't like flow. I just don't like it. I don't like the idea of the way it handles kind of guide curves, and I can't control the step over amount. It's just, I get so frustrated every time I use it because I want it to make, I know exactly what I want it to do, and it will never do it for me, which is probably my fault for, wanting the toolpath to do what it's not supposed to do. But yeah, I'm just not a flow guy.
Fair. I get it. A little birdie told me flow might be getting better sometime in the next 20 years of Fusion.
Next 20 years, allegedly.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't remember in 20 years from now, but maybe sooner than later.
What's yours? What's your least favorite? What grinds your gears, as they say?
That's tough. I think toolpaths that I don't want to say I haven't found good uses for. I think like Morph Spiral, I would say probably takes the cake for me. I think pencil can be really frustrating for a lot of people, although I've had pretty good success with it. Yeah, I would probably say Morph Spiral. Like if tomorrow Autodesk was like, "Hey, Morph Spiral's gone," I'd be like, "Nah, no big deal." I can't say the same for everybody, right? Maybe you like it.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I posted a picture, but I have a part on my Instagram that I've used Morph Spiral on that was absolutely beautiful. That was the best toolpath for that job.
You're a fan then?
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that one. Yeah, that one works pretty well.
Dueling opinions on that one.
Dueling opinions. Yeah, the 5-axis pencil though. Oh, I'm really liking that. That is a good one.
Oh, because it has new capabilities now.
It's got new capabilities.
Yeah.
Link in description for your manufacturing extensions.
I don't think there's a link in the description, but maybe there will be later. Yeah. So I think that's about all the questions I had just for the first episode. I think we want to keep doing this, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think this is great. I like to kind of just tossing opinions around, having some fun. It'd be, seeing a bunch of people in the comments is great. It would be great to expand a little bit more. Maybe some users could toss in some parts they're struggling with, and we could kind of go over how we would make them, or interview some people, or I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's toss some things in the comments too, of kind of what you think we should kind of go with this. We're having fun, so
yeah, let us know. I mean,
serious.
Yeah, nothing serious. I think we definitely do want to bring on some guests. I think I think programming submissions would be cool. I think maybe we'll have like some sort of like form or whatever where you guys can send in parts. We'll take a look at them. We'll give you a shout out, and we'll kind of maybe not program the whole part, because I'm trying to think of some of the complexity of some of the parts that I've done. But we'll certainly look at maybe some problem areas on there, or how we would attack the part or fixture the part and whatnot, and we can do that. I definitely think having some customers on, some of our friends on, things like that, talking to other machinists, getting other points of view on things. Yeah, I think we can just see where this develops. Let us know in the comments kind of what you guys are thinking. If you like it, let us know. If you don't like it, well, keep that to yourself. Nah, I'm just kidding. You can also let us know, if there's something we could do better, or, look at next time. I think the format for this first one was a little bit long, but, I think we got some good content in there, and we kind of hash this out, and like I said, we'll see where it takes us. We can spend some time on Q&A. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're also going to go over a couple announcements. So we do have kind of a big announcement. We are going to host, DSI specifically is going to host a Fusion 360 kind of users group, like an in-person meeting towards the end of the year. So don't have a whole lot of details on it right now that I can share, but hopefully we can share that soon. So definitely stay tuned. We are also going to be at IMTS. Phil, are you going to IMTS?
We are going to IMTS.
I'm going to change the screen and show it. So we are going to be at IMTS. Phil will be there. I will be there. If you want to stop by our booth number is kind of on the screen. So if you want to come say hi, I think Phil will be signing autographs. I don't think there's a cost to your autographs, Phil, but maybe there is. We'll see.
It's $10. $10 a picture.
$10 a picture. So we'll certainly figure it out. But yeah, if you guys are at IMTS, we'll be there the whole week. We will be bouncing around. So if we're not at the booth, let somebody know so they can ping us, and we'll head over there, because we might also be kind of walking around seeing how things are going. But yeah, Phil and myself will be at IMTS the whole week. And then the last thing that I kind of wanted to go over, and I think this is again kind of a hot take, but Fusion is a growing community, and we want to be able to help work with people. So we're kind of talking before about support, and you mentioned like, oh, if they had my maintenance and things like that. We want to be able to let people into kind of the DSI family, whether you're a customer or not. I know it's hard. If you bought Fusion, you already have a seat, you're on some, legacy 310 pricing or something like that you can't give up, and you're like, I'd love to switch my licenses over to you. We want to be able to work with you, right? So if you have Fusion, you're looking to buy more Fusion, we'll always try to get you the best price. We're always, going to provide support for you. And if you don't have Fusion with us, still contact us. Still let us help you out. If you have an issue, some things like that, if it's something simple, we're going to help you out. But we want to be able to kind of offer support or extend support to the greater community. And, we'll really look at, kind of if we can work with you, if we can help you out, if there's stuff you need, come to us. So we want to be there kind of as a resource, and we'll just take it from there. Just an initial conversation. If you got a part, something's bothering you, you want Phil to help you out, he's certainly available. Sometimes when he's not doing posts for me. But
if you need me just to talk you to sleep, singing lullabies.
There's a charge associated with that though. Phil has a very beautiful voice.
It's true. Yeah.
So yeah, we might put this on like podcast format too, or something like that. Kind of maybe have a little bit more structured and have some guests on. Certainly let them talk about their experiences and stuff like that. But yeah, if I don't see a whole lot of questions in the chat, looking. Do you see any, Phil?
No. I think we're just making fun of Amish. That seems to be what the chat's all about.
Yeah. Amish. Another fellow Canadian machinist.
Yeah. A Canadian Godfather, we call him.
Really? Wow. All right.
Yeah. We'll try this again next week. If we get 100 subscribers, Devin's going to shave his beard.
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's hold on. Let's hold on to the beard shaving challenges for a little bit. I do like my beard. My wife says I have a very small chin, regardless of probably what you think is underneath this beard. My wife says it's a small chin, so it needs to accompany my head, my big head. So, yeah, that's about it. I don't want to sit here and ramble on. If you have any questions, I'm going to put our emails in the chat. You can always email fusion360@dsi-mfg.com. But I'll put those in the chat for later. Certainly, you know how to find us. Instagram, the Dr. Phil Experience, and I'm 1186MFG. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah,
Phil.
Yeah, we should probably actually get back to work. I don't think anyone knows we're actually doing this.
Oh yeah, we probably should get back to work. So, all right, take it easy, everybody. Have a good one. We appreciate you coming, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See you guys later.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.